It's summer. The stove is out, the grill is in, and I'm in the mood for flavor. Lots of it. How do I get it? Well, you can be sure not the same way I do in the winter. There will be no stew simmering away for hours on my stove in June, July, or August, if I can help it. No, when it's 90 plus, or even a little cooler, 80 plus, 70 plus, on those great summer days when the garden or the golf course or the beach is calling, the last thing I want to think about is a stew on the stove. Frankly, I don't even want to think about boiling water. But there is a limit to the number of times you can have chicken salad for dinner. So, what to do? Well, help is at hand. There is something you can do, something simple, cool, and kind to the cook. That sounds good, doesn't it? It has a name, too. The name is Marinade, or some people say Marinade. It's the best shortcut to flavor I know. With a minimum of input, it gives you the maximum return. You take 5 minutes to mix together a marinade. You slam dunk your meat in the marinade, you go away, and you're just a few short grilling minutes away from a great flavorful dinner. And it's not only flavor that you get when you use a marinade. Some marinades can also act as tenderizers, allowing you to choose cuts of meat that you might otherwise skirt. Acidity in some kinds of marinades breaks down the fibers of the meat. I shouldn't keep saying meat. It's not just meat we're talking about. It's poultry, it's fish, shellfish, veggies. They're all candidates for marinating as well. And the real variety in marinating comes in the incredible number of marinades that are out there. Anything that you can eat can be marinated, and anything that you can eat, you can use as a marinade. Let's see, what should we do today? Pomegranate juice. Let's use it as a marinade. I mean, be creative. Go through your spice cabinet, go through your vinegars, your mustards. You'll find 10 million things that maybe there's a great new marinade idea that has not been invented yet that you will invent tonight. No two marinades are the same, and each will be different in taste depending on the main ingredient that you use it on. That's another reason why I'm so crazy about marinades. I'm always experimenting and trying something new and trying a marinade that I used for one thing last week for something else this week. There's always that element of surprise, flavorful surprise, never far off. Now, don't let anyone tell you that all marinating times are the same. That's the fastest shortcut to disappointment, I know. Fish and shellfish require the least amount of time. I remember once marinating shrimp in a yogurt marinade for a couple of days. They had no texture whatsoever. It was like white bread that had been soaked in milk for a couple of days. Also, how the meat or poultry or fish is cut, small cubes versus big chunks, will make a difference in the time you should allow. Tougher cuts of meat, in big chunks, of course, can go the longest. And if you are using yogurt, which definitely acts as a powerful tenderizer, know that there's a point beyond which the meat can be over-marinated. The acid in the yogurt will have worked on the texture of the meat, pushing it past appealing into the realm of mush, soaked white bread. Okay, let's talk flavor. I've got here a whole leg of lamb, and I had the butcher bone it for me. Here's what it looks like. This is now a boned leg of lamb. And this is how I like to prep it for maximum absorption of the marinade. You nick it. I'm about to put a very flavorful marinade on this, but I'm just taking a knife, and I'm just putting little nicks all over the place in this leg of lamb so that the lamb will pick up more of the marinade flavor. You can do that on both sides. Nick, nick. There you go. Doesn't hurt the cooking any, doesn't hurt the lamb any, but certainly increases the absorption of flavor. Okay? Now that I've nicked to my heart's delight, there's something else I could do with this, which happens to be my favorite way of grilling lamb, and that is butterflying the leg of lamb. You see, we've got here this boned leg of lamb. But one side of it, like this side in particular, is really fat. See this? See this piece here that's really fat? Look in the middle now. This is really thin. Can you see that? And then you come over to this side, and it's a little fatter over on this side. And that's going to make for a very uneven cooking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to butterfly it. I'm going to basically even it out. Just cut right through there. And you see already I've got a much more even piece of meat. And you can do the same thing on this side as well, though this side doesn't need it as much as the other side. But I'm going into this fat lobe right here. You've got to do this with a very sharp knife. And you sort of roll it out like that. That's great. And you can now nick those newly exposed spots too if you want. Never stop nicking. Now, a good possible marinade for a butterflied leg of lamb would be, let's say, red wine and herbs, and some garlic, and some olive oil. But as good as that is, let me show you something even better. You know, so often these days when we all think marinades, we tend to think Mediterranean kinds of marinades with herbs and garlic and olive oil and wine and vinegar. Well, when you taste this one, after it has been grilled to perfection, you'll swear you're in India. And I urge you to think about the more powerful flavors of some other parts of the world. Mediterranean marinades are great, but think about India, think about Thailand, think about Mexico. These are wonderful marinades. For 3 pounds of meat, here's what you'll need. I've got in this food processor 2 cups of plain yogurt. Please don't use strawberry yogurt. I've got 4 medium cloves of garlic that have been peeled. I've got some fresh ginger. That's 1/3 cup of coarsely chopped fresh ginger root. I have got 2 teaspoons of ground coriander and 2 teaspoons of garam masala, which is an Indian mixture of sweet kinds of spices. You can make it yourself, actually. You can find a recipe in any Indian cookbook. I'm also putting in here a teaspoon of ground cumin, 1/2 teaspoon of ground allspice, 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of Indian chili powder, which is different from the Mexican chili powder. It's more of a hot chili thing without any flavorings in it. 1/2 teaspoon of ground cardamom and 1/2 teaspoon of ground fenugreek. Process. Just about a minute. The main thing that you need to do with that is to get the garlic and the ginger pureed. Okay, we'll assume that's good enough for the time being. Now, put the lamb into a large bowl or a rectangular dish or something like this, and you add the marinade to this and cover it completely. Very nice. I'm going to turn it over. I can see the marinade already spilling into all my little nicks. And this I would marinate in the refrigerator, covered, for about 24 hours. And really be careful about this, okay? Don't do it much longer, because if you do it longer, as I told you before, the yogurt is really going to eat away at this meat and turn it into mush. But at 24 hours, actually, you know, leg of lamb has spots in it that are not particularly tender, so it really does a very positive thing here. It tenderizes the leg of lamb and gives it this great flavor. I've got one that's been marinating for 24 hours, right here, and I'm about to put it on the grill. I'd say it's a good idea to get as much of this marinade off as possible. It's a little bit messy, but, well, I'm just going to sacrifice my towel for this. It's a little bit messy, but when it's very wet like this with the marinade, it won't brown well on the outside. So get as much of the marinade off as you can. There we go. Some on that side, some on that side. Oh, we are now ready to fire away. I might keep dabbing away at this top side. Oh, man, I wish you could smell this. Stay with me, and you will. Marinades are my thing. I have several others in store that I bet you'll like as much, maybe even more. Come back.
Magnet. On Viking, they had some strong magnets, and the dust immediately went zoop and completely covered them. So there's a gradation of these magnets from strong to weak.
Any image here could pop up a picture.
That's right. You can't
We just
tell.
don't know, but any picture now, we could see Sojourner on the surface of the planet.
Right.
And
because they don't just march around nicely around the circle. They come in at random somehow.
That will be historic.
Yes.
Once again, another historic event.
Yes, I'm watching.
The first autonomous vehicle.
These pictures don't come in all at once either. I mean, you get a bunch, and then they kind of wait and send in some more data, and then you get another bunch.
There's a tighter shot of that.
Right, and that one's shinier too.
Yes.
I don't know if I can see I can't with my eye see any particular.
Now, for the viewers out there, if they're looking down at that center disc with the 3 pedals in it, the Sojourner rover is actually on the pedal that would be facing 3 o'clock. Is that correct?
However, it will now have backed off, and so it will actually be more like at 4 o'clock.
At 4 o'clock.
All right, that rover UART error handler message is nominal at this time. It's expected.
Continuing to show these same photos. So again, as we are going through this sequence, no order in which they're coming in.
Well, I don't know the order. There's some rational thought behind this.
Slice this up very nicely and garnish this platter and show it to you in just a few moments. But for now, I want to move on to a few more marinades. I've got something that's really great for you, both in terms of the marinade and the meat that I use it on. I'm using breast of veal, and I'm cutting it into riblets. This is my breast of veal right here. It's a very inexpensive piece of meat, and people all the time ignore it. But if you put a good marinade on it and let it hold for a while, what's going to happen is it's going to tenderize this meat, which can be a little bit on the tough side. So watch this. The butcher has already broken this bone for me, so it's easy to cut through, and I'm going to cut it now into riblets. At one end of the breast, they're very meaty. At the other end, it's not quite as meaty, but it's delicious at every end of the breast. And this meat costs like, I don't know. I mean, it's somewhere in the vicinity of $2 a pound, which is pretty darn cheap these days for any kind of meat. People ignore it all the time, but it's actually wonderful. It's great in the summertime. I love it on the grill. Now, for this, we're doing the Mediterranean thing. I'm going to make a very wonderful herbal marinade, but this is really not just like liquid with herbs in it. This is basically an herb puree, and it's an amazing way to drive the flavor of herbs into meat when you marinate meat in it. So in this food processor, I've got 2 cups of chopped fresh herbs, and you can use an assortment of whatever you've got. You could use basil, oregano, tarragon, chervil, an assortment, whatever turns you on. To the herbs, I'm adding 2 teaspoons of minced garlic and some good olive oil. I've got here about a 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. And I'm adding a teaspoon of salt as well. And now I am pureeing. I'm going to add a little bit more oil. Go. I want to paste. Looks almost like pesto. Okay, that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to smear it on the veal riblets, the breast of veal. It's so bright green. I love the look of this thing. Just dab it on, dab away. And put these in a bowl, turn it down that side so I can hit the other side with more of this wonderful, bright-smelling herb puree. And I would marinate this for at least a day, 24 to 36 hours. If you start it on a Saturday morning, it's a great thing for dinner on Sunday night. In the refrigerator, of course. And that's it. Then you're ready to grill away. And when you do, you will come up with something that looks like this. And it even retains some of its greenness after it's cooked. And I just want to show you what these riblets look like. Oh, man. I love this. In fact, I'm going to taste it. I'm going to eat it. I'm just going to stay here and eat it for a while. It is so good. And look at that. I would cook this, just like pink. Absolutely delicious. Full of the herb flavor. It's great stuff. Okay, let's go to another place in the world. Let's go to China. I'm going to make the kind of marinade that is often used for Chinese roast pork, but I'm going to do this for spare ribs, but not the Chinese style of spare ribs, which, as you know, don't have a great deal of meat on each rib. I'm going to use this American cut of spare ribs, which comes from a different part near the rib cage. It's called country spare ribs, and they're have the butcher cut them like 1/2 inch thick. They're very meaty. There's only a little bit of bone and a lot of meat on them. And then you can take this and cut this in half, and then you get very manageable pieces, and that's what I've got in this bowl right here. To make the marinade, you combine 1.5 cups of soy sauce and 2 cups of water with 2/3 of a cup of granulated sugar. So here's the soy sauce, and you want to use a soy sauce that is labeled thin soy sauce. You don't want to use dark, heavy soy sauce for this. And here's the water. And to this, I'm going to add some hoisin sauce, which is a Chinese bean paste that's a little bit on the sweet side. 2 tablespoons of hoisin sauce. And I'm going to also add some garlic to it. 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. And then you could add a little sesame oil to this as well if you like. And then this just goes over the pork. You want to basically submerge the pork in this. And let that marinate. This is a good 24-hour marinade also, but you could get away with less. You could do this in the morning and enjoy it at night. 18 to 24 hours, I'd say, is ideal. Don't go much longer than that, because then you get a more sort of intense, salty taste from the soy sauce. And when you're all done, and after you've grilled these ribs, look at these wonderful, meaty chunks of rib that you have to serve to your guests. Oh, man, this is great stuff. Can't resist tasting this. I love that. Powerfully, powerfully good. Alrighty. Let's go to one more place. Let's go to Latin America. I'm going to show you an ingredient that you may not know, but it's wonderful in a marinade. It's called annatto seed. These are annatto seeds, and they are from a Native American tree, and they're sort of reddish brown. And when you grind them up, they have this incredible flavor that's something like nasturtiums or papaya seeds, if you've ever tasted those. So in a bowl, I'm going to mix together 2 teaspoons of garlic that's been chopped to a paste, and 2 tablespoons of ground annatto seeds. I took the annatto seeds, I ground them up, I got 2 tablespoons of ground annatto seeds. To this, I'm blending in 3 tablespoons of olive oil, and you make this paste. And then you add some salt to it to taste. It's okay, you can taste this stuff, just give it a little taste and see if it's salty enough. And then coat a skirt steak with it, just like this. I mean, you could do any kind of beef, but I really like it on this thin skirts, relatively thin skirt steak, because the flavor really permeates beautifully. You see how it's all kind of like, it's pre-nicked. It's naturally nicked, so you don't even have to cut anything into this. Cut any nicks into it. There you go. And you marinate it for 8 to 12 hours for a steak that's as thin as that is. That annatto or achiote flavor really penetrates. It's absolutely unbelievable. I think you've never smelled anything quite like it, if you've never smelled anything like it. Here's the skirt steak off the grill. This thing is just great as, you could use it for fajitas. You know, you wrap it up in some tortillas and put some Mexican things on it, or you don't need the tortillas. You could just serve it alongside some salsa, some guacamole, and of course some margaritas. All right, I'm going to select my favorite of all these marinades and meats, and if you come back in a moment, I'll show you how I like to eat it at the table.
Share a race car with my husband? Never. We don't even share shave creams. For me, it's pure silk. I love it. It moisturizes and makes my legs feel silky. Want a real experience? Then experience pure silk.
This summer, when you itch from mosquitoes or poison ivy, remember the power of 10. Among these, only Cortisone 10 penetrates skin with the medicine doctors recommend most to stop itching and help heal. Remember the power of 10. Cortisone 10.
Announcing a health care plan where your doctor bills cost this much, where your hospital room looks like this, where this is your medicine chest. Presenting health care where you hold all the choices. New choices in natural healing. Between these covers, there are no expensive antibiotics or prescription drugs. Just natural cures that help your body heal itself. Clear sinus congestion instantly with this plan. Lower high blood pressure with these foods. Dissolve wrinkles on the spot with this natural oil. Stop smoking with help from this blend of juices. Natural alternative remedies that require no doctor visits or shocking pharmacy bills. Call now to examine new choices in natural healing free for 10 days. If you decide it's not for you, return it and owe nothing. If you like what you see, it's yours for just 4 installments of $6.99. Yours free for calling now. 5-Minute Cures is packed with fast-acting solutions for everyday health problems. New choices in natural healing. Here's to your health. Call now.
Traveling is more fun with a companion, and Foodland and Sack 'n Save can help. Come in and show your Maikai card, spend $40 in one visit, and we'll give you an Aloha Airlines companion certificate instantly. It's Foodland's great Aloha takeoff, now even easier with Maikai.
Our once-a-year half-price mattress sale ends July 4th weekend. Now through Sunday, get half off the department store price on a queen set like this. Twins from $49 each piece. Queen Beauty Rest mattresses at $2.99. Plus on premium sets, free delivery, free removal, free setup, and a free bed frame. Or this weekend, free pillows.
Did you say free pillows?
Yes, free pillows. It's the half-price fireworks. Sleep Fun's 4th of July weekend. Don't miss it.
I tell you, for the amount of time that you invested in this meal, you get incredible return in flavor. Of course, you can make it even faster. Don't bone the lamb yourself. Don't butterfly the lamb yourself. Just tell your butcher to do it. You will have to throw the marinade together. But at the last minute on the grill, you throw some tomatoes, you throw some slices of eggplant. You could smear them with a little bit of Indian spicing, if you like, as I've done. Throw some cilantro on the platter. Here I just chopped together some cucumber and a little bit of onion and a little bit of tomato and a little bit of cilantro and mixed it with yogurt. And this makes, it's a raita, and it makes a fabulous sauce to go alongside the thick slices of grilled lamb. This is really a crowd pleaser. Believe me, I've pleased many a crowd with it. You can also buy some bread at the market. These come in plastic bags. So, you know, I mean, you could buy a good puffy pita, or you could buy an Afghani bread, or there's sometimes in the market you could get bread that's marked naan. It's like the Indian tandoori bread. But any of these great-looking Middle Eastern sort of soft, doughy, yeasty, puffy breads will be just great with this. What could be simpler? Let me get a little bit of this on my platter, on my plate. Oh, man. And some raita alongside. Yes, makes me very happy indeed. Here's what I'm drinking. I think that with this dish, which is filled with these Indian flavors, you want a robust red. It doesn't necessarily have to be a red, but it has to be a wine that really stands up to the flavors. So in this case, I have picked a red. I've picked a very young red California wine made from the Syrah grape. Now, the Syrah grape is the highest class grape that they have in the south of France. The best wines of the Rhone Valley are made from the Syrah grape. And for the last 10 years in California, people have been very serious about making high-quality red wines from the Syrah grape. The wines can be big and brawny and full of alcohol and can be full of tannin as well. Some people make them in a style that's a little bit less fierce, a little bit less tannic, and you don't have to age them forever to soften them out. This is one of them. This is a fairly new Syrah from Albin Vineyards. It's just about 2 years old, this particular bottle of wine, but Albin hasn't been making it for too long. And take a look at the color of this. It's kind of wonderful. You can see how much fruit is in it because it's a real young, deep purple. And it's not too fiercely tannic, and it's going to go very nicely on top of this lamb. So let me give this a little taste. Oh, man. I am so happy with that, I can't tell you. Absolutely delicious. Okay, try this. Try some marinade. Save yourself some time. Get yourself some flavor. Come back, see me again.
Up, join Nina Griscom and Alan Richmond for a tour of America's finest eateries on Dining Around. Then at 2:30 Eastern, the world's top chefs share their favorite gourmet recipes on Chef du Jour. Coming up on the TV Food Network, we're really cooking.